Do you really need it? That's the questions I often ask myself before buying something. I do understand that we live in a e-commerce economy where everything is so easily accessible at a push of a buttons. However, if we could just take 1 second to rethink about the item and whether or not it's absolutely necessary to have it, then we're still doing our part to prevent overproductions as well as saving the planet. It doesn't have to take something as drastic as going out to plant multiple trees to say that I'm doing my part to save the environment. It could just be something as simple as rethinking your lifestyles and adjusting it to fit our current environmental situations. Good evening, class. My name is Jane, and today I'll be talking about global warming. And in specific, I'll first describe what global warming is, then I'll examine its effects on Earth right now as well as in the future. And lastly, I'll be going over some suggestions of what we could incorporate in our daily lives that could slow down the rapid pace of global warming. As discussed, I'll first talk about what global warming is and what causes it. So global warming occurs when carbon dioxide and other air pollutants that collects in the atmosphere absorb sunlight and solar radiations. Oftentimes, those solar radiations would escape into space. However, with those air pollutants in the atmosphere, they trap the heat in and therefore making the earth hotter. Those air pollutants could known as carbon dioxide, as mentioned, methanes, nitrous oxide, water vapors, and synthetic fluorinated gases. Those are also known as the greenhouse gases, and its effects, as discussed before, is also known as the greenhouse effect. Now that we have a more solid understanding of what global warming is, let's talk about its effects on Earth in the current time frame right now, as well as what's predicted of it in the future. So what's happening right now? The extreme heat waves, as we know, have been causing tens of thousands of deaths in the recent years. Though as alarming as it is, Antarctica is also losing about 4 trillion metric tons of ice since 1990s. That's quite dangerous because bacteria and viruses that were trapped in those ice tens of thousands of years ago could be released into the water, causing unknown, undocumented sickness around the globe, and worse off, it could lead to mass casualties. Now, that's what's happening right now. What about what's predicted if this continues to go on? Well, scientists have been collectively recording the annual temperature rise of about 0.18 degrees Celsius or 0.32 degree Fahrenheit per decade. And scientists have all agreed that we must stop that number from going over 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2040 if we want to avoid the extreme weathers. What I mean by that could be extreme droughts, floodings, tropical storms, wildfires, or those natural disasters that we collectively know as climate changes. These effects are felt everywhere around the globe. However, they are felt most acutely by the underprivileged, or what we refer to as the economically marginalized or the people of color, because oftentimes these climate change are the key driver to hungers, to displacement, to social unrest, as well as poverty. Excuse me. So scientists have also found that if we unable to reduce our emissions, this could lead to a predicted number of 250,000 deaths per year, as well as leading about 100 million people into poverty. Those numbers to me are quite alarming. And it's sad to see that our technological advancements are also the cause of our natural or like livable habitat to be drenched of its life. Therefore, what can we do to prevent that? So that's what I'm going to discuss right now. What we can do as in a community or as an individual to prevent global warming or slow it down at least. So, as a global community, it's so important to taking steps to decarbonize. By that I mean transitioning from fossil fuel-based energy or productions to more renewable and clean energies. Those could it could also means increased productions of electric cars instead of going to out and buy a brand new gas-based car. Maybe look into electric cars. Those ones are often more clean energy efficient, and even if that's something that you're not looking for, maybe a hybrid. And if hybrid is still not the answer, look for gas car that offer the highest mileage with the lowest emissions. So those things are what we can do as a individual if we do decide to buy a car. What if it's not buying a car? Okay, well, you could, let's say for buying appliances, you could choose appliances that have the Energy Star labels on it. Those ones are often the ones that have a higher standards of energy efficiency than the regular minimum federal requirements. Those ones are good as well. And speaking about transportations earlier, when you can and where you can, try to take public transportations or carpooling. Those ones are like saving energies, and those are quite efficient as well. To end my speech, I hope that I brought some useful information regarding our current environmental situations, as well as my offers of what we can do to our environment is helpful to you and that you can incorporate into your daily lives. We as an individual couldn't help or save the environment on our own, but as a large knowledgeable community we can. Therefore, try to educate your surrounding people. Let them know what's going on, have them help you on whatever you're working on. Then together we can save the environment. We can make it a more livable environment right now and in the future. Don't just study on the climate, act on it. Thank you.